This is just me mentioning one hypothetical match so far that I would have liked to have seen in the world of mixed martial arts. Sadly, I cannot call it no holds barred anymore because of these stupid fucking rules in place. But that is for another rant. Just because they were both heavyweights and both had a losing record, I would have liked to have seen Alan Zunner of mostly King of the Cage fights versus Carlos Cantu of Gladiator Challenge. Alan Zunner was anywhere from 5'8" to 6 feet, weight range between 240 and 250. He lost 7 straight fights, but his style was a mix of sloppy punches while standing, punches to the face and head, and a belly-to-belly suplex that he displayed in one fight in his match versus Mike Borg at KOTC 63. That was Zunner's first match, and he displays a belly-to-belly suplex. Slight grappling from somebody who claims to be proud that they do not train much. And his opponent would have been, as I mentioned, Carlos Cantu, who was 6'4" and 275 pounds. Both guys were not real muscular looking. I mean, you could look at both of them and see 240 pound fat guy, 275 pound heavy guy, overweight. Cantu style, he didn't seem to have any grappling at all from the 2 of his 4 matches I have seen. Seemed like what he did was all he did was stand and punch, and he did a few times make an opponent bleed. At Gladiator Challenge 32, he landed or threw dozens of punches and did almost win that one. But I forget about the almost. So the point, though, just because they both had a similar style of stand and punch and limited grappling from both guys, limited submission holds or grappling, Alan Zunner versus Carlos Cantu would have been a fun match to see. Eventually somebody would have to lose. And that means eventually one of these two would win. As surprising as it might sound, someone with an 0-4 record in Cantu and an 0-7 record in Zunner, if they just stood with each other, or if they were on the ground with each other, either way, they keep fighting, and I don't think this would go past the 5-minute mark. One of them would end up winning. I think Cantu, because of his size and weight advantage, his height and weight advantage, I think he would have won by sloppy punch fest, sloppy TKO from the standing position. There's no grounded pound here. So there's one win for a guy from another Central California guy. Alan Zunner was from California too, but he wasn't Central California. A friend of mine from New York seems to think the same when I asked about Battle of the Losers. Alan Zunner versus Carlos Cantu. What if, hypothetically, who wins? His exact quote was, "Gotta go with Cantu because he's a big-ass Mexican." I wouldn't say his being Mexican has anything to do with it over beating a white guy. But I would just, like I said, it's just, yeah, and like he was partially saying, it's the height and weight. 6'4" against 5'8", or 6'4" against 6 feet, whatever Zunner's true height was, somewhere between there. 275 against 240. And from what I've read, Carlos Cantu, he did seem pretty fast with his punches. So against another born loser, Carlos Cantu, he would have come out victorious over Alan Zunder. I mean, as bad as some people might seem in Gladiator Challenge, I've seen fighters much worse in other organizations like Mississippi Free Fight Challenge and other events. People even in the bigger shows like the UFC. You shouldn't even be here. Carlos Cantu would have beaten your ass. Alan Zunder would have beaten you. Both of those guys, all they really had, like I say, was stand-up punches. Zunder, he was just slightly better at striking, but he had a belly-to-belly suplex for grappling, and he could land some knees to the body, but the majority of Zunder was punch to the face. Carlos Cantu, not majority, but all of his offense was punches to the face. Just Terry Treblecock, a promoter for King of the Cage, or Ted Williams, promoter for Gladiator Challenge, they should have thought of this match long ago and put it together. I mean, they work together. Since King of the Cage and Gladiator Challenge are pretty much the same thing. Gladiator Challenge is slightly worse and competition-wise than King of the Cage, but not by much. So neither guy has fought in years. Carlos Cantu retired in 2005, November, and Alan Zunder, I think he was done. I think he retired in 2008. So this match will not happen, but I would have liked to have seen it. It would basically be the tough man version of MMA, sloppy stand-up, and I really think Cantu would have won it, but I don't know if Zunder can could get the belly-to-belly suplex in, who knows? Because then Carlos Cantu is on the ground, and Cantu, he never did well on the ground. Again, Terry Treblecock and Ted Williams, that was a missed opportunity. I mean, we see so many people in King of the Cage now who have got that fighting style and that record or that mentality of just losing all the time, and why did Carlos Cantu even after his 4 Gladiator Challenge losses? He could have fought once more in King of the Cage. Alan Zunder could have fought and should have fought a few more times in Gladiator Challenge. I can say, despite these two losing all the time like they did, they had more heart than somebody like Bob Sapp. Sapp, he just retired now from active competition. Who knows if that lasts, but a few weeks he's technically been retired. And Sapp, he threw like the last 10 matches he had in MMA. I didn't see Carlos Cantu or Alan Zunder. They were always trying their hardest. I didn't see them throwing matches, deliberately losing. I'm talking here in a non-work fight. Sapp, he's not in a work, he's just falling down because he wants a quick payday. He's usually letting people punch him for no more than 2 seconds. 10 seconds maybe. And then he taps right away. But Alan Zunder and Carlos Cantu, they weren't going in for doing this kind of thing. They actually gave it their best effort. I would rather lose and give it my best effort than lose and like go into this match knowing I'm going to lose knowing that that's my whole point. That's what Sapp did for 10 or 12 of his last matches. I honestly think if Alan Zunner fought Bob Sapp, and I'll give you the height difference for Sapp and weight, 6'5" and 312 pounds. I think Sapp's latest numbers are for weight, 312. Even then, Alan Zunner at 5'8" and 240 would have beat him just because he's actually got a will to still fight, unlike Sapp. Carlos Cantu, it's the same thing. Bob Sapp would have lost to him just because he actually got a will to fight. Cantu was, I would imagine a 275-pound man. He's got a hard punch, and punching to the face seems to be Carlos Cantu's only offense. So he lands one punch to Sapp's, not even face, and not even the head. Well, that seems to be Sapp's fall down move right there. Anyone punches him in those spots. Punch him in the body. Let's say for 3 minutes, or even just 10 seconds. Sapp will end up falling down to Cantu's punches. Alan Zunner, like I said, he'll beat Sapp by punches or by forearm choke. Maybe forearm choke. Alan Zunner might have learned a lesson from his loss to Mike Bork. These matches: Alan Zunner versus Carlos Cantu, Alan Zunner versus Bob Sapp, Alan Zunner rematching Mike Bork, Carlos Cantu rematching Julius Eskew, Carlos Cantu fighting Sapp. These matches will never happen, but it was a nice thought. If Carlos Cantu fought Sapp, he wins by KO or TKO from punches. If Zunner fought Sapp, he wins by forearm choke. And Mike Bork versus Bob Sapp, don't even think about that one. I mean, it's going to end up bad. I mean, Mike's retired now and Sapp is retired, but I'm talking if they fought right now, Mike Bork, he would have beaten the shit out of Sapp. Mike would have given Bob Sapp another fractured orbital bone, just like Rhino did with John Matu in their match at KOTC 5. That's how powerful his punches are. Mike Bork, he would add he fought Sapp, he would have a fourth or fifth career he ended. Sapp would be like, oh, I felt Mike Bork's power in his punches and his forearms even. I'm done. I fucking quit. It's like, ref, you can see me. I'm tapping like an old school typewriter here. He just landed one punch on my eye. It's like, I'm done. Like Sapp, he didn't have the heart anymore for this. And I say again, Alan Zunner and Carlos Cantu, two total losers, but they would have beaten him. This non-effort that Sapp put in, that would be his downfall. And Mike Bork, he was a level above someone like Carlos Cantu, and definitely above Zunner, because, like I said, he beat Alan Zunner. So, bottom lines, Alan Zunner versus Carlos Cantu. I would have liked to have seen it happen. Shame on Terry Tremblecock or Ted Williams for not making Zunner versus Cantu happen. And if Mike Bork fought Bob Sapp, Mike would easily have beaten Sapp. It would have been the Rhino's usual punch style. It would have turned out bad for Sapp. Rhino gets like a win in maybe 2 minutes. So, ended my rant here. Matches that I would have liked to have seen happen that didn't happen, and I know I've got a great idea how all these matches would have ended. Mike Borg beats Sapp. Cantu beats Zunner. These matches should have been put together years ago.